Hi, you guys. Welcome to Audrey's reading area. Thank you so much for joining me here as I read these fun and exciting books to you. You see this one here? Yep. My prop. My prop gives you a little clue as to what type of book I'll be reading to you today. Thank you again for joining me here at Audrey's reading area. Now, please go on over to YouTube and hit subscribe. Also, click share, click like, and share it with everybody so everybody can hear me read these fun and exciting books to you guys. Now, before I start, I want to shout out to my mom. Hey, Mom, Miss Beverly. She's always here for me. Thank you. And again, once again, this week, probably Thursday, I'm going to come on live and I'm going to be answering questions because I'll probably do that on T-shirt Thursday. I'm going to be, Miss Sheena. Shout out to Miss Sheena. You guys go on over to Chocolate Milk Kids. I think it's Chocolate Milk Kids, right? Chocolate Milk Kids. And subscribe over there and watch. She does a whole bunch of stuff for kids too. So now please go to YouTube. Don't forget, hit subscribe. On this Educational Tuesday, yes, I do have yet another fun and exciting book that I'll be reading. So, again, see my prop? Yes, this is a little clue. You're not going to guess, but this is the book. This is the book. You wouldn't want to be a worker on the Statue of Liberty. It's a monument you'd rather not build. This is a monument you'd rather not build. And this is written by John Malum and it's illustrated by David Antrim. You wouldn't want to be a worker on the Statue of Liberty. A monument you'd rather not build. Can you guys see that? Oh, yeah. Once again, it's written by John Malum, illustrated by David Antrim. I'm going to read you the back first. The back says, you wouldn't want to be a worker on the Statue of Liberty. Get ready. As a young French sculptor, you're about to embark on one of the most ambitious artistic projects of the 19th century. There's not a moment's rest for a worker on the Statue of Liberty. It's colossal. Tip is top tips from experts. You'll need to be both artistic and an engineer. Don't expect it to be easy. You'll be handling heavy materials and you can't be afraid of heights. I'm afraid of heights. Don't forget that it can get extremely hot inside a huge copper statue. And be prepared to help with fundraising. You could lose your job if the money doesn't come in. That's interesting. Once again, you wouldn't want to be a worker on the Statue of Liberty, a monument you'd rather not build. All right, let's see what it says. Okay, so where's the rest of it? First page. Interesting. That's the torch. There's an introduction, which I'll read to you at the end of the book. It says, a statue, a big idea is born. And it reads, Dourde de la Boulaye has invited several important men to his house. He tells them about his idea of giving a statue to the people of America. And it says it has to be ready in 5 years' time by 1876. Why then? Because that's when the United States will be celebrating its 100th birthday. 100th birthday. It became an independent country in 1776. And the statue will be a special birthday present. La Boulaye points to the figure of liberty on the Great Seal of France. He wants to give the Americans their own liberty statue. Wow. It's a monument to freedom. He has even thought of a name for it, a rather long one. As for the design of the statue, Bartholdi shocks everyone when he says he wants to build a colossus, a giant statue. You'll have your work cut out for you. And it has all these different inspiration things at the bottom of the book. It's that people asking questions. How big? The man must be mad. So they will be called Liberty Enlightening the World. I guess that was the first name for it. I will make the biggest statue the world has ever seen. And there are other people are thinking, what an impossible language. Handy hint. You'd better learn English. Not many Americans can speak French. Au revoir. That's probably about all I know. Roman coins. Number 1, Roman coins. Right here. Were often stamped with Libertas, the goddess of freedom. Number 2, this one here. The Great Seal. Liberty is shown on the seal of the French Republic. Number 3, this one is number 3. Number 3 is a painting, The Republic Enlightenment of the World, 1848 by French artist A.L. Janet Lang. Interesting. Bon voyage, off to America. Lighthouse, let me read this. Egypt in 1867, Bartholdi designed a giant lighthouse for Suez, Egypt. It was never built, but his design gave him ideas for the Statue of Liberty. And check this out right here. Check that out. Real similar, right? It reads, La Boullier needs to know what Americans think. So he sends Bartholdi on a fact-finding visit. You and another assistant go with him. You set off on June 8, 1871, and 13 uncomfortable days later, your ship sails into New York Harbor. It passes Bedloe's Island, and Bartholdi thinks this would be a good place to put the statue. You spend the next 3 months traveling around the United States trying to drum up support. But Americans just aren't interested in the project. You really wish you'd stayed home. Wow. These are the pictures from it. So, little facts. The big city, Bartholdi explores New York City, which he's heard so much about. The president. He meets Ulysses S. Grant, president of the United States. The poet. He also meets Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, America's most famous living poet. The harbor. If the statue is placed on Bedloe's Island in New York Harbor, everyone who arrives by sea will see it. The nation. Bartholdi visits all these American cities to discuss his plans. Check those out. Very interesting, huh? A giantess designing liberty. He says, my arm is killing me. That's funny. He's holding that up, saying, my arm is killing me. So it reads, back in Paris, or Paris, Bartholdi makes sketches and models of how liberty might look. It's your job to help him work out these ideas. And sometimes you feel a bit silly. He plans to make the statue about 148 feet high. It's meant to represent freedom. So he adds some symbols of freedom. He tries a Phrygian cap, a hat worn in Roman times by ex-slaves who had gained their freedom. But not everyone would recognize that symbol. So he changes the cap to a crown with rays. He likes the idea of liberty holding a broken chain. Everyone knows that is a sign of freedom. But he changes that too. It's so hard working with artists. They're never satisfied. So there's some little facts written around it. It says, handy hint, freeze. Do not forget your pose, Monsieur Bartholdi will ask you to stand in this exact position again and again and again. I guess he had to pose like that. Rough ideas. These are some of the ideas that Bartholdi tries out before he settles on the final design. Wow. Madame Bartholdi was like, that's my boy. Some say Bartholdi's mother, Charlotte, was the model for Liberty's face. Where's her face? Am I showing that to you? There we go. Interesting. I don't think I knew that one. That's interesting. Into the mine, a visit to Norway. The statue is far too big to be made from stone or solid metal. Bartholdi has decided to make it from thin sheets of copper. It's attached to an iron frame. Even though it will be hollow, Liberty will still need 100 tons of pure copper. There is only one place to get it, the copper mines at Vigsnes in Norway. It's your job to go there and make sure that only the best copper is sent to Paris or Paris. You have to go into the mine to see the lumps of copper ore dug out of the rock. Then you watch as the ore is crushed and heated to produce liquid copper. It's hot, it's dangerous work. The copper fumes contain arsenic and other deadly poisons. Wow, check this out. Okay. It says, who pays? Let's read this. The Franco-American Union, a fundraising group set up by La Bouille. People of France. Towns collected people's money and sent it off. French business people. One man has sent 64 tons of copper. Souvenirs. 200 mini statues are sold at 1,000 francs or $350 each. Interesting. Soft copper. It says, why copper? Soft. Copper can be beaten into shape more easily than other metals. It will not crack. Copper can be bent without cracking. And it will not rust. Iron rusts, but copper does not. Self-protecting. Copper develops a protective greenish patina. Interesting on this Educational Tuesday. Plastered. Liberty takes shape. It says, you thought the copper mines in Norway were bad enough, but now you're choking in plaster dust. At the workshop of Gadget Gathering Company in Paris, the air is full of it. Here, a full-size model of Liberty is taking shape, bit by bit. Each piece starts off as a small clay model. Then it's over to you to measure it. By doubling the measurements, you can make a model twice the size. You continue to multiply the measurements, creating bigger and bigger models. You got to take thousands of accurate measurements. The full-size pieces made of wood then have to be covered in plaster. So they say starting small. Scale model, the maquette, as sculptors called it, is made from clay. It's 1/16 the size of the actual statue. And this is a picture of it right here. Made of clay. Interesting. Piece by piece, Bartholdi divides the statue into about 310 sections. It takes 38 pieces to make the right hand and the torch. Just the right hand holding the torch. That's like this right here. The right hand and the torch. It takes 38 pieces to make the right hand and the torch. Measurements have to be taken at many different points. Each section needs about 9,000 measurements. Wow. Which can then be scaled up to make full-size models. This scaling up technique is called pointing up. Wow. A wooden framework has to be made for each of the plaster sections. Wow. This is interesting. Interesting. They are building this thing. Molded, Liberty in wood. So it says, as if the plastering wasn't hard enough, the next job is really tricky. Now you have to shape huge wooden molds that fit exactly onto the outside of each plaster section. The shapes are complicated, and it takes skill to make the molds fit around them. You can't leave any gaps between the wood and the plaster, or the copper sheets won't fit together. Oh, once they've been beaten into shape. Remember the carpenter's golden rule: measure twice, cut once. Tools of the trade. They got some tools of the trade down here. A carpenter's toolbox contains his planes for smoothing, braces and bits for drilling holes, chisels for cutting, and the carpenter's square for marking out the right angles. So I'll show you all these different tools. And the picture. Hammer, Liberty's copper skin. Wow. The wooden molds are taken into the fabrication room, which is where Liberty's copper skin is knocked into shape. Spend too long in here and you could easily go deaf. Flat sheets of copper are laid onto each mold. They're placed on the side of the mold that was shaped to fit around the plaster section. The sheets are then beaten with hammers until they are pressed and bent into the shape of the mold. The beaten copper sheets are now the exact shapes needed for the statue, you hope. For complicated shapes, the copper must be heated in a forge until it's soft, which means more of those dangerous fumes. Whoa. Whoa. So I will put the rest of it up to the screen so you can pause it and read it to your child. Hopefully it's not backwards. This thing tends to show things in reverse. And let me see if there's another fun fact on here. Big hand. Here's the right hand after all the model copper pieces have been joined together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. The torch is 21 feet. Just the torch by itself is 21 feet. Wow. Armature. The statue's armature or skeleton is a network of iron bars fitted to the insides of the copper sheets. The sheets are attached to the bars with rivets and bolts. Look at that. Wow. Torchbearer, hand across the sea. It says, it's now 1876, but Liberty isn't ready for America's 100th birthday party. All that's finished is the right hand. It'll have to do, so it's shipped over from France to the United States. The hand is exhibited in Philadelphia before moving to New York. It's your second visit to America, and you and Bartholdi have got a lot of work to do. Last time you came here, most people were not interested. But you're hoping the giant hand will change their mind. You've got to convince them to raise money for the massive pedestal that Liberty will stand on, or else the whole project could fail. So now the whole statue needs a pedestal. Look at the hand. Wow. So let me read you more little facts about it. It says, meanwhile, back in Paris, in 1878, Head and Shoulders, Liberty's Head and Shoulders are completed. They're displayed at the Universal Exposition in Paris. Inside is a winding staircase, and visitors pay to climb up to the windows in the crown. Visitors pay to climb up it. So I guess that was another way of making money. So in 1880, iron skeleton, French engineer Gustave Eiffel, he'll be famous one day for his tower, designs the iron framework or armature that will support Liberty's copper skin. So the armature is like the skeleton of it. It says in 1877, New York, after Philadelphia, the hand travels to New York where it's put on display in Madison Square Garden. It stays there for 4 years. This is Madison Square. It stayed there for 4 years. Interesting, interesting. Wow. Handy hint. Your job depends on raising enough money to finish the statue, help sell tickets for people to climb up the stairs inside the arm. In 1882, handed back. After being in the United States for 6 years, Liberty's right hand is shipped back to France so it can be joined to the rest of the statue. You figured they would just leave it here and just kind of join it here. I don't know, but we'll see what they did. In 1884, that's 2 years later, above the rooftops, Liberty is finished. The statue is fully assembled and towers over the building of Paris. Crowds of the Parisians come to look. Wow. Wow. On a pedestal, Liberty's Island home. In 1877, the government of the United States agrees that Liberty can be put up on Bedloe's Island. The giant statue will stand in the center of an old fort on a concrete and stone pedestal built by American architect Richard Morris Hunt. This is the good news. The bad news is that the project to build the pedestal keeps running out of money. And each time that happens, the work has to stop. You've just got to stay calm and hope that enough money will be raised to finish building the base. If that doesn't happen, all your hard work will have been for nothing. So this is what the base looks like as they're trying to build the base. Wow. 1884, laying the cornerstone. Well, let me first read the hospital. It says in 1861, during the American Civil War, Fort Wood was used as a hospital for sick and wounded Confederate prisoners. Also, travelers who arrived in America with contagious diseases were kept on that island until they recovered. Interesting. Star Fort. Fort Wood is an old army fort on Bedloe's Island, built in 1811. It is shaped like a star with 11 points. Liberty's pedestal will go here. Show it to you again. Nice. Possible pedestals. So they had rough ideas. Bartholdi came up with several ideas for the pedestal. He thought Liberty could stand on a pyramid-shaped base or on top of a tall tower. Neither idea was used. Some interesting and nice pictures. Yeah. Shipped Liberty to America. In December of 1884, the time comes for Liberty to begin her voyage to America. In Paris, Paris, the giant statue is taken apart and the pieces are packed into 214 crates. Pieces of the Statue of Liberty, you guys, were taken apart and packed into 214 crates, all clearly numbered. A train takes them to the port of Rouen, where it takes 17 days to load the heavy boxes onto the ship. It's not all plain sailing. The crossing is a slow and stormy one. In New York, some of the crates are damaged when they are unloaded. But worst of all, the pedestal still isn't ready. The crates have to go into storage, and that costs money too. Wow. So I'm going to read you these little fun facts. See the crates and these guys unloading them? But these are the little fun facts that they have written around the page. And I will read you some of these fun facts. Atlantic crossing. The crates are loaded onto the French steamship Isère. It sails from Rouen on May 21st, 1885, and reaches New York 28 days later. Took a whole month, huh? Stormy weather. The first part of the crossing is stormy, and the ship uses up most of its coal. It has to stop at the Azores Island to refuel. Stack 'em high. The crates are stacked on Bedloe's Island, where they will remain almost a year until the pedestal is ready. Wow. Interesting facts. Pedestal finished. The campaign to raise funds for the pedestal is helped by newspaper owner John Pulitzer. Readers of his paper give $102,000 on April 22 of 1886. $102,000. Wow. As the last block of stone is put in place for the pedestal, workers throw silver coins into the mortar. At last, it is time for Liberty to take her place. Wow. Standing tall, Liberty rising. Wow. It says, soon after the pedestal is finished, Liberty's iron skeleton begins to take shape. By August of 1886, it is ready for the statue's copper skin to be attached. As the sheets are riveted in place, Liberty's giant body grows from the feet up. Finally, on a rainy day in October of 1886, a big idea that had started 21 years early in France is realized in America. There are parades and speeches, fireworks and gunfire, and Frederick Auguste Bartholdi unfurls the flag of France from the crown of the Statue of Liberty. Wow. Wow. That's how the Statue of Liberty looked when it was being built. Wow. So let me read you some of these fun facts. It says, unpacked. Liberty's copper sheets are taken from their packaging crates. Each piece is labeled so the Americans know where to fit them. Repairs. Some pieces are found to be damaged and have to be repaired. Rivets. The copper sheets have to be riveted to the Eiffel's armature, which is the same as the skeleton, by hand. Wow. A noisy, back-breaking job. The first two rivets are named Bartholdi and Pulitzer. Now, on the inside, riveters have to climb up the iron armature inside the statue. When the sun shines on the copper, it gets unbearably hot inside. Imagine heating up a copper pan. This is almost the same thing as the copper frame. On the outside now, there is no scaffolding. Workers have to dangle on ropes up to 305 feet. Woo! Above the ground. Amazingly, there are no serious accidents. On the big day on October 28, 1886, Bartholdi drapes a French flag from Liberty's crown. At last, the giant statue is finished. Da-da-da. Look at that. Yes. Colossus, Liberty Fact File. It didn't take long for the Statue of Liberty to become world famous. Staring out to sea in the direction of Europe, she soon became a symbol of the United States. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, thousands of people left Europe to begin new lives across the Atlantic. The light from Liberty's torch was a welcoming sight as their ships sailed into New York Harbor. Wow. Here is the Statue of Liberty. Over here, let me read to you what he's saying. It took about 20 years for Liberty's copper to turn green. That's what he's saying. So it was copper and it turned green in 20 years. That's the protective coating it has. That in the beginning of the book it says copper does. It turns into a protective coating on the outside. So now little fun facts. World's tallest. In 1886, the Statue of Liberty was said to be the world's tallest monument. Note, only the tops of the monuments are shown here on these monuments here. At the top, 12 people at a time could stand in the torch gallery, which is now closed. All the sevens, the crown or nimbus has 7 rays, 1 for each continent. Staircase. The spiral staircase inside the statue and pedestals has 354 steps. Eyes wide open. Each eye is 2 feet 6 inches wide. I remember when I was a little girl and my family went to the Statue of Liberty and we were climbing up, and it just seemed like such a long climb to me. I didn't think I would make it. I did. But as we were climbing to the top and I just looked out the window and looked down, it scared me because I'm afraid of heights. And I remember bumping my chin and it bleeding. And I still have a little mark from inside the Statue of Liberty from when I was little. Just a little fun fact from Audrey. The world's tallest. In 1886, I read that, but I'm going to read it again. In 1886, the Statue of Liberty was said to be the world's tallest monument. Tallest. So it has a long nose. Liberty's nose measures 4 feet 6 inches long. It even has a tablet. The date is July 4th, 1776, the date of the Declaration of Independence. That's the tablet. It says chains, broken chains representing freedom lie at Liberty's right foot. Wow. Interesting, interesting, interesting. It says secret entrance. There's a doorway in the sole of the right foot. Now that, I don't think I knew. There's a doorway in the sole of the right foot of the Statue of Liberty. Secret entrance. Interesting. So, poem. Emma Lazarus's poem about the statue, The New Colossus, is engraved on a bronze plaque inside the Liberty's pedestal. The most famous lines are, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free," a reference to immigrants from Europe coming to live in the United States. Torch. Now on November 1st, 1886, lights inside the torch were switched on and Liberty became a lighthouse. A new torch was fitted in 1986. On a windy day, the torch can sway as much as 5 inches. I would feel like that thing's going to fall. But I guess they built it knowing what to do with that. Name change in 1956. Bedloe's Island was officially named Liberty Island. Liberty Island. Liberty Island. That's what I know it as. The end. That was the end. We do have a glossary, which you guys can freeze and read these words if you want to. I don't know if you want me to read them to you, but it says armature, a framework or skeleton, which we know. I told you about the armature is a skeleton. Caliper is a jaw-like instrument used to measure the diameter or thickness of an object. Colossus is a giant or colossal statue, much larger than life size. Contagious disease, a disease that can be spread from person to person. Copper, a reddish yellow metal that is fairly soft and easy to reshape, just like that of a penny. Penny's made of copper. So all the rest of these things you guys can read. You can pause and read. And the last one is vein, a layer of ore found between a layer of rocks underground. Well, that is the end of this book. You wouldn't want to be a worker on the Statue of Liberty, a monument you'd rather not build. Thank you guys so much for joining me here at Audrey's Reading Area. I know this book was a long time. I hope you guys enjoyed it, though. I know. But again, I will see you tomorrow live at 5. L-I-V-E spells live. Live at 5. I'll see you soon.